Hey everyone! In this video, I wanted to talk about my first LAN event, my first in-person event and tournament that I had attended, and kind of give a feel for what you could expect if you're going to your first LAN. So for those who may not know, my first LAN tournament that I went to was DreamHack Atlanta in November 2018. I knew going in that I was going to be able to meet people, some of whom I had met through the Hearthstone community, some I knew, on Twitter or on Twitter because of the Hearthstone community, and some of them I had talked to, practiced with, and some of them were pro players that I had just been a fan of for a long time. I followed their streams and watched them play in the big tournaments. So getting to actually meet these people in person and get a mix of that from just kind of friends that I'd met through online, as well as some of the big pro players, was so crazy. It was a lot of fun. It was more intense and just more exciting overall than I even had thought it was going to be. And there was just so much going on. So I don't think I was prepared for how much was going to be happening. And in the Hearthstone tournament, there was actually over 200 people who had signed up to play. So there were a lot of people there to play in that tournament. So it just wasn't feasible to actually even get to meet everybody that was competing. So I did get to meet people that I wanted to, that I was looking forward to meeting. But unfortunately, I didn't get to meet everyone. And there were even some people that I, kind of knew of or had heard of that I kind of wanted to meet, and I just didn't get the chance. So if you're going to a LAN tournament in the future, try to get a judge for how many people might be there. Try to plan specifically who you might want to meet, get pictures with, talk to, things like that. That way you can try to be able to actually meet those people that you really want to meet while you're there. In terms of going to a LAN tournament and actually being physically around other people instead of just playing online, I tried to come prepared. I've heard a lot about things like the con flu and things like that. So ahead of time, I actually did prepare, and I brought a small, personal thing of hand sanitizer that I kept in my backpack with me at the event. I had tissues. I had sanitation wipes in case I needed to wipe down a table or something that I was going to be using, a place I was going to be sitting at, just to try to prevent myself from getting sick, because nobody likes getting sick, especially after such a fun event. And especially if you have to work afterwards too, you definitely don't want to be sick and bringing back whatever sickness you may have gotten. So I try to prepare ahead of time in terms of that. That could be something I might have over-prepared, but even speaking with people afterwards, there were people who actually would have probably liked to use the hand sanitizer that I had with me as well. So that's just a non-tournament related tip I have. Now, in terms of actually playing and competing at my first LAN, I don't think that I was too nervous or anything actually being face-to-face with my opponent, but there were things that I didn't consider or I didn't expect that actually did happen. A lot of times in Hearthstone, you have your decks that you bring, you have a ban that you choose from your opponent. So in this case, it was a last hero standing format. You bring 4 decks, and each of you ban one of the decks, so your opponent cannot use that one. And I had prepared a lot ahead of time in terms of, okay, if they bring a certain lineup, what am I going to ban? And I knew going in kind of the general, okay, these are the types of decks that I want to ban. When it came down to it, I didn't necessarily freeze up, but I think some of the time it was just a crazy hectic, okay, find my seat wherever they had the assignments, get my laptop out, get the internet cord plugged in, get my note, a piece of paper for notes out. And I felt slightly rushed in a way, and not necessarily because of the tournament organizers or anything like that, but then I also didn't want to make my opponent wait on me, that extra 1 or 2 minutes even. So I was just kind of like, I just need to hurry so that my opponent isn't sitting here waiting, like staring at me. And I just don't think that I was prepared for that. I wasn't prepared to have that kind of reaction, that need to just, hurry, I don't want my opponent to be waiting on me. So I think that in some cases, if I had just taken that extra 1 minute, 60 seconds, if I had taken that 60 seconds to just take a couple more breaths, really think about, okay, what did I prepare? What did I come here for? I know what to do. And instead of, making myself freeze up, if I had just taken that extra little bit of time and really just think, okay, I know what I'm doing. Just calm down, relax. It's okay if I take that extra 1 minute, get myself ready, then I may have actually done a little bit better than I ended up doing. In this tournament, it was a Swiss format, so I had the chance to play against 9 different opponents over the first 2 days, and it cut down to a top 16, so the top 16 with the best records after 9 rounds moved on, and I ended up at a 3-6 record. Definitely not bad for my first LAN and my first major tournament, but I do feel like there could have been 1, 2, maybe even 3 matches, but I feel like 2 solid matches where if I had just taken that extra time, picked my band correctly, or thought about how I wanted to cue my decks, which order I wanted to play them in, instead of kind of just that panic, like, okay, I just have to pick something and go, I think I would have been a little bit better off, and it would have put me in a much better standing. Even if I wouldn't have qualified for the top 16, I would have been in a more solid place at the end of the 9 rounds, and in terms of actual standing, in comparison to everybody else in the tournament, but also about how I felt about myself and how I felt I did in the tournament. So think about that. If you're maybe going to your first LAN, maybe it's the nerves, maybe it's anxiety that you have, just let yourself take that extra 60 seconds, like I said. Let yourself take those few breaths and just really think about what you're doing. Just even if you have to close your eyes, put everything else out of your mind. You've prepared for it, you've practiced, and you are there for a reason. Don't forget that. Don't let the craziness of what's going on around you, or the panic of trying to hurry for your opponent's sake, or anything like that rush you. Just sit down and get ready like you have prepared for. And the last thing that I really wanted to kind of talk about and go over that I didn't quite expect was be careful of your attitude and your demeanor while you are in a LAN event. Whether you are salty or upset about the results of a game or how somebody else played or whatever it might be, or if you're super happy, it does reflect on you as a person. It reflects on a team you may represent, but also it gets noticed. I didn't quite expect the attitude and demeanor to be as noticeable as it was, and I've heard that from other people as well, their experience going to LAN tournaments, that they remember people who were very salty or pissed off, or the people who were very happy and excited. And if you end up having a bad game, something like that, and it just doesn't go your way, and you end up blowing up, especially in today's day and age with so many people recording things, whether it's on a cell phone or whatever, it does get noticed. So just be careful. If you are not the type of person who wants to be seen as a salty or upset kind of person, then really just make sure that you keep your emotions and your reactions in check. And, if you want to be seen as a happy, bubbly person, then by all means, definitely go out there and show that. But your attitude and demeanor definitely does get noticed. It gets noticed by the other players. It gets noticed by the tournament admins and just other people around. And that could actually carry over and be good or bad for you, depending on who notices and what happens with it. So those are my pieces of advice after experiencing my first LAN event. I hope that you all picked up something at least, or you enjoyed the video anyways. And I'd love to hear about your first experience going to a LAN. Was it good, bad? Did you at least have fun? Did you learn anything? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.